Sup, everyone. Welcome. So I see some people already here asking the big question, like, what is the big news? Or what is this mind-shattering, reality-bending news that changes everything? Okay, so I don't know. Okay, First and foremost, I'll give you guys a hint. It's not Genshin related, but it is considered big news. It's the fact that Blue Protocol. Blue Protocol. How many people in chat even knows about oh my goodness, Blue Protocol? Because they recently did a live stream, and for better or for worse, I think Blue Protocol is coming out much sooner than we originally anticipated. Now, the thing with Blue Protocol is, I think let's be honest here, right? Like we should be done and over the era of Genshin killers. Oh, let me bring us in here. What's up? Yes, got a fresh cut. I went out to get a haircut today, came home, took a shower, and started stream. Ah, look, nice and moist. But yeah, with Blue Protocol, they are likely to be releasing early next year in 2023. But when they say that, usually it means it's going to be delayed by like half a year or something like that. So it's probably going to be like fall of 2023 is like the most likely scenario we have. Now, what does that mean? That doesn't really mean much for Genshin players, because for the most part, it's just the people who are maybe a little more hardcore, a little more into the co-op aspect of things, who are going to be probably like jumping ships. But you know, like, I think I've reiterated this enough to the point where you know, I don't think many people will truly quit Genshin. Like I said, the Genshin was designed to be like the cockroach of games. Genshin can withstand the degree of nuclear strike equivalent of news and games to come out. There could be a game released tomorrow that is on the mobile phone that looks exactly like Genshin, but with all the features that everybody wants, and somehow Genshin will still be as successful as it currently is, right? It always finds a way. There's just no telling with Genshin and irrelevancy. I don't think Genshin and irrelevancy really goes in the same sentence, at least for the next couple of years. So it's no difference with Blue Protocol. Once Blue Protocol comes out, I can see a lot of Genshin players playing Blue Protocol's initial release. How many are actually going to stick around? Because believe it or not, a lot of us keep saying like, oh, we want more things to do in Genshin Endgame, we want this, we want that. But once people actually have that in those other games, they don't stick around, if you guys have noticed. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about this. When we ask for something, yet we see it in other products, we see it in other games that they have this, but it doesn't keep players around, or it doesn't generate enough traction with the player base to the point where it's self-sustainable, or it could be called like a generational success. Right? I think Genshin is definitely like one of those generational successes. It's hard to say in the next decade another mobile game is going to rise up to challenge Genshin in any way, simply because Genshin has essentially capped out the market space here for the most part. People who do play mobile game, or people who dabble in the mobile game genre, has either A, heard of Genshin, or B, tried Genshin already. It's hard to think another mobile game can capture this kind of audience. But, you know, I'm sure game companies will find a way, one way or another. It's not a gacha game, it's an MMO. Yep, Blue Protocol is not a gacha game, it is an MMO. It is an anime MMORPG. Just slapping anime on things nowadays seems to have this effect where you get all the anime enthusiasts just swarming to it, and having a game, having an MMORPG, anime MMORPG developed by Bandai Namco, which is like a household name in Japan. You know, it's really great advertising. It's really great PR for the game. So a lot of people are very at the very least going to give it a try. And I'm no different. I've been looking forward to Blue Protocol. I think the graphics are great. The combat system is complex enough without overdoing it. There's co-op play and there's room to shine by yourself. And I do think they're trying to abolish this traditional way of looking at MMORPGs, especially where, oh, there's a tank, there's a healer, there's a DPS. Everybody can do their own thing. There are no specific set in stone roles, I believe. And I think maybe I got the game wrong, but I think in Blue Protocol you can spec into anything you want. You can be a tank, you can be a DPS, you can be a healer, support, whatever the hell you want. You can spec into it yourself and fulfill that role. So maybe it's going to be a skill-based game. I know Japan is pretty popular for their technicalities when it comes to games. Just look at Dark Souls and stuff like that, right? So that's the big news, right? It really came out of nowhere. I didn't know they had I honestly didn't know they had a live stream planned. Maybe a lot of people knew about this already, but to me this is like definitely news. It doesn't have to do anything with Genshin to be a good game, does it? It doesn't. And I think there are plenty of good games that has no resemblance to Genshin. In fact, Genshin is a game that is built off of Breath of the Wild. Right, this open world exploration, almost single player experience. Right, and I don't mean to take away from Genshin's success. I just think that Genshin based its success off of a working formula, which is fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Predecessors are here so you can learn from them and carry forward what worked and shed what didn't work. In Genshin's case, what worked is the open world exploration and fantasy aspect. What didn't work, I guess, was the monetization model because, geez Louise, Genshin pulled like probably 10 times Breath of the Wild numbers when it comes to... I'm just pulling numbers out of my ass. I don't know how much Genshin makes compared to Breath of the Wild, but I would imagine it's much more because it's a gacha live service game with live updates, whereas Breath of the Wild was a one and done thing that you paid a price for, right? A one-time fee. Okay, so here's the thing. I've had somebody request me to react to a video for a while now, and I've been delaying it. It's a video by Vars, so I'm gonna take a look. Vars is that guy who's like, why nobody does X, why nobody does X, right? Like, why no one plays Toma? Yeah, that's the guy. So, he made a video saying, is Geo the worst element in Genshin Impact? I don't know how many of you guys watched it, but this is the video in question right here. It's by Vars2. So somebody emailed me and wanted me to react to this video. I haven't watched it. I haven't watched it at all. Truly first time watching it, so this is going to be my raw reaction. I don't know why the word raw sounds so dirty and wrong. Maybe I just have a nasty ass mind. Disgusting walrus. Get your mind out of the gutter. But it's actually interesting because I think this is still debated. I would be hard pressed to hear him say anything but Geo is the worst element, because I do think Geo is in a very bad spot right now. The only saving grace for Geo is the fact that they have dedicated supports capable of carrying their mono element teams. But apart from that, Geo has close to no reaction synergies. They have individually strong characters that can function outside of like mono Geo teams, but for the most part, like, it's just Zhongli and Albedo. I guess at this point, all the other Geos have a very difficult time finding places where they belong, and even Albedo at times feels like he's there to round out the resonance for Geo as opposed to actually providing unique value by himself. So let's start with this. because this is where I want to focus everybody's attention. Let's see what the verdict here is by Mr. Vars.
The 7 elements were made playable, and among the original...
Oh my goodness, this guy's... I'm sorry. He caught me off guard. Okay, he caught me off guard. This guy's voice is so, like, airy, if you know what I mean. It sounds like I'm floating in a cloud. Wait, we gotta start over again. This dude's voice caught me off guard so bad. Wait, what?
When Genshin Impact was released, 6 out of the 7 elements were made playable, and among the original 5 stars, Diluc, Jin, Kuting, Mona, and Qiqi, Pyro, Anemo, Electro, Hydro, and Cryo started out with a 5-star representative, leaving Geo as the only element to not have a 5-star unit bearing its vision for quite some time. It wasn't until the release of Zhongli and then Albedo a few months in. Prior to that, the only experience players had with Geo was through Noelle, Ningguang, and I suppose Aether and Lumine to a lesser extent. The lack of representation during the early days of the game left Geo to be neglected for quite some time. Even after Zhongli and Albedo were brought to us, that would be all the attention the element got for basically an entire year. During all of version 1, players had their eyes on the other 5 elements in an effort to establish a dichotomy of sorts, with the consensus that it was too early to form any conclusions around Geo when there weren't that many characters to fill its lineup. Unfortunately, as the time went on and the Geo roster finally received new additions, players began to realize just how insular of an element it really is. Despite its characters performing well, it became apparent that was only by virtue of their individual traits, and any viable composition pertaining to it severely restricted your options. With all this in mind, I think it's about time to make a video analyzing the Geo element, why it's almost unanimously considered the worst element in Genshin Impact, as well as propose a few changes that would greatly benefit it in the future.
Okay, so before we go any further, the guy straight up just gave us the answer, right? Like, so yeah, he also does believe that Geo is the worst element in Genshin Impact. And some of the points he brought up is very interesting because he talks about how Geo characters are individually strong through stats. This is almost exactly the same case that Electro used to be, right? I mean, yeah, when it comes to Electro, they at least had unique reactions that are not just crystallize this, crystallize that. We had unique electrocentric reactions. It's just that they were underutilized and difficult to make work in, difficult to optimize in many scenarios, which left it to be very, very awkward, but not unusable, and certainly not like bad by the game's standards. Now with the Dendro electro elements here, I see no reason to ever use electrocharge. This is straight up power creep or utility creep or reaction creep, whatever the hell kind of creep you guys want to label it as. This is some sort of creep, okay? And I'm okay with it because I honestly feel like the traditional electro stuff just didn't feel impactful enough. Now with Geo, the guy straight up just mentions like, yes, they have strong characters with great stat padding, but the reactions, man, the reactions are just non-existent. I think if you want to fix Geo, you have to fix Crystallize. You have to. So, let's see.
Out of the 7 elements, I actually consider Geo to have the most creative structure. Given that it's based on Earth, the main theme in regards to gameplay is that of defense and solid mass, not unlike traditional values of the Earth element in other games. To me, it's very akin to rock and ground types in Pokemon. Those 2 elements, defense and solid mass, lay the foundation for how Geo and its characters would operate, beginning with its sole reaction, Crystallize. Similarly to how Anemo Swirl interfaces with Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, and Electro, Crystallize is able to absorb any of the 4 elements, producing an elemental shard that when picked up, generates a shield for that element, and while it blocks damage from all sources, it's more effective against the corresponding element. Now before going any further, let's break down the issues with Crystallize. Seeing as it's Geo's only reaction, for it to be worthwhile, it has to perform well in a lot of different scenarios. Anemo Swirl deals a blast of AoE damage based on the element absorbed, letting you take a single enemy affected by Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, or Electro and spread it to surrounding enemies. In a way, Anemo doesn't necessarily assimilate a target element, rather it distributes it. This allows you to gain the benefits and effects of whatever.
Okay, so before we go any further, I'm sorry I'm pausing again, but another key point why Anemo is such a superior element in comparison to Geo, even though their structures and likely their flaws are similar, right? Because they both share the trait of having one reaction with, is for Anemo is Swirl, for Geo is Crystallize. But the difference here is that because Genshin Impact is a game that heavily circles around being able to clear content fast, the one that ends up doing damage is going to be the one that comes out on top. Now, it's also very replaceable what Crystallize does, right? There are plenty of characters in this game that has shields that are far stronger than what Crystallize can offer you. However, there's no feature in the game that can offer you what Swirl can do. So by that, just simply by comparing those two things, you can already see why immediately Anemo is the far superior element. It's because its effects are difficult to replicate through characters. Now, yes, some characters do have grouping capabilities, and that is one of Anemo's signature utilities, right? Is the fact that you can oftentimes use Anemo characters to group enemies. But the artifact Viridescent set, like the Viridescent artifact set, is the one that kind of puts a nail in the coffin here, and truly separates the two. So, like, I'm not saying if the game was more about survival. So let's say if there's a timer for 3 minutes and you got to survive the entire 3 minutes, and like the whole time you're getting bombarded by things falling off the sky, one-shot abilities with like monsters sucking your mana, and like your whole point is to survive. Yeah, having a Zhongli shield, having a crystallized shield may be incredibly valuable there. But until we get content like that, there will never be a priority for Geo the way it is right now.
Element to spread by proxy, making it easier for you to pull off chain reactions on a bigger scale, as Anemo skills are able to force enemies together. That's the main reason why Anemo is the strongest element in the game. It can copy and amplify the effects of any one of 4 other elements from damage to reactions. Geo technically possesses the same ability, but on a far more limited scale. Unlike Swirl, Crystallizes effects are purely one-dimensional. Picking up a Geo Shard merely gives you an elemental shield. For example, it's not like having a Pyro shield makes you apply Pyro to anyone you touch. This means the only thing that matters about it is how much damage it blocks. Here's where we encounter the biggest problem with Crystallize. It's essentially the same argument used to question the viability and necessity of dedicated healers. As of version 3.1, every element that can possess a shield, so that doesn't include Anemo or Dendro right now, currently has one or more characters who are capable of forming one on demand. Pyro has Toma, Xinyan, and Yanfei, Cryo has Kaya and Diona, Hydro has Candice, Electro has Beidou, and Geo has Noel and Yunjin. Meanwhile, Zhongli's Jade Shield is 1.5 times more effective against all forms of damage with the exception of true damage, making it an omni-elemental shield more or less. Say you have Diona on your team for a cryo application, and you use her Icy Paws followed by some form of geo damage. You already have a cryo shield from Diona's elemental skill, making the cryo shield from Crystallize completely redundant, as shields in this game don't stack in mitigation due to all of them taking damage.
Some shields really should. For example, I said this in the past, Crystallize as a reaction definitely should be stackable. And for the love of Teyvat, can we please have a shield HP bar? I want to see how much more damage my shield can tank. It doesn't have to be super obvious. It could be just like a non-numerical bar, at least letting me know, okay, my shield is about to break. I either need to A, re-shield, or B, I need to start dodging. Without shield HP bar, this is a very quality of life thing. It's not like the game becomes unplayable without it. But I know this is a bit of a tangent. I really, really would appreciate a shield HP bar. Okay?
Simultaneously. Now you could make the argument that Crystallize allows you to forego defensive support and go for more damage, but there are 2 reasons why this is not true in practice. 1, Crystallize shields are laughably weak on their own, let alone the redundancy. At most, they can protect you from one heavy attack from a regular monster, that's about it. Considering player instantiated shields are magnitudes more efficient and plentiful, there's absolutely no pragmatic incentive for you to actively seek out crystallized reactions as a form of protection. 2, if your objective is to go for more damage, there are far better alternatives. You will likely do more overall damage using a healing or shielding unit that can proc any other reaction than a DPS unit proccing Crystallize. It is without question the most underwhelming elemental reaction in the game. Even if the shield value from a Geoshard rivaled that of a character-generated shield, which will never happen because that defeats the purpose of them, that wouldn't do a whole lot to increase the appeal of it. On-demand healing or shielding is always better than conditional. Not saying that achieving Crystallize is particularly challenging, but since it is a reaction, there's steps you have to take to acquire the shield, and it would be very cumbersome to have to time it so that you get a shield right before a heavy attack. Moreover, even though I did say in the past that the need for defensive support like shields and recovery is gradually rising, it's still not at the forefront of priority and it likely never will. Other gacha games are modeled around utility being typically exclusive to dedicated supports, making them obligatory as DPS units would be completely worthless without a tank or healer protecting them. Genshin features a plethora of units who can supply both DPS
What
and
the hell was
cover,
that?
whether by way of using Genshin features a
What is that? What is this? This is not Genshin. Oh, this is Epic 7. Oh, okay.
plethora of units who can supply both DPS and cover,
I was
either
like,
by way of using elemental reactions or through their built-in moveset. Additionally, almost all elemental bursts
yeah,
grant
I thought she was a Natlan leak just now. So that scared me a little bit.
frames during their attack animations. When timed correctly, that allows players to avoid powerful enemy attacks, further lessening the need for safety. And of course, in the overworld, you have access to food dishes and can teleport to any statue of the 7 to heal back up. If Genshin didn't have Pokemon centers, then maybe survival would take more precedence, but that's not the case. So not only is Crystallize horribly inefficient, but it's also just not unique. I'm aware they added onto Crystallize through stuff like Archaic Petra, which behaves quite similarly to Viridescent Venerer, where upon achieving Crystallize, your entire party gets 35% bonus damage for that particular element, but trust me when I say, the 40% shred on Swirl is so much better in total damage output than this. So it wouldn't be a stretch to say the Geo element has no elemental reaction. In other words, the only way for Geo characters to be of any use to their team is through their own merits. Kind of reminiscent to physical damage dealers, Eula manages to overcome the inherent limitations imposed on her from being a physical damage dealer through sheer force, but even then she's held back by not having elemental reactions to boost her performance outside of Superconduct. In a way, Geo has this very same issue. No matter how strong Ito, Albedo, Zhongli, etc. are, they will forever be less effective or versatile than the other 6 elements because they have no elemental reactions to augment their capabilities. To give you an idea just how problematic this is for Geo, look no further than its own Archon, Zhongli. Ever since he was buffed in version 1.5, he garnered a reputation for turning Genshin into Minecraft diesel mode, providing such overwhelming raw defense that you were able to face tank everything in the game to the point where some began to purposefully not use him just to make the game feel more challenging again.
Yep.
Zhongli's greatest strength is that he functionally works in any team composition, but he's only a comfort pick, never an efficient one. The resistance shred from his Jade Shield may appear to supplement the lost damage from having a Geo character.
Okay, so before he continues, I want to just highlight a thing with Zhongli is, in some teams that people bring Zhongli, it's actually a damage loss. Because, like, I'm sure Varus is about to get into it, but I just want to say it first, because it's because, like, Genshin has so many characters nowadays, and even maybe a year ago, there's just better options in the slot that Zhongli would take up, but in exchange, it would demand you to play more precisely and make less mistakes, meaning that you have much tighter windows to execute your combos and your synergies for your team. But if you weren't able to pull it off, you oftentimes had a higher damage potential or ceiling, whatever you want to call it. So yes, mathematically speaking, it has been proven many times that Zhongli in a lot of the teams would be a damage loss, but what he gives in return is more practicality, right? It's that you slap a Zhongli shield on yourself, you go and you do whatever the hell you want, you can mess up your combo, you can mess it up as badly as you humanly can. Your mouse can run out of battery, your keyboard can spontaneously explode, you can, like, faint, black out, and as long as you come back within like 20 seconds, nothing really matters. But yeah, the all resistance shred is a very universal feature, so obviously it's not going to be super effective. But yeah, but the trade-off, sorry, I lost my train of thought, but the trade-off here really is, do you want consistency or do you want perfection? Because perfection is don't use Zhongli and bring the best support capable. But on the other side is that you're going to be rerunning Abyss Chambers over and over and over and over again until you get that perfect run, versus if you bring Zhongli, yeah, like, you're not going to get big PP damage number as high. You're still going to get some buffs, but the runs are going to be much more consistent. You don't have to retry as many times. Yeah. That's really how it is. Teo says, long time no see, Warriors. Tiosu, it has been a long time. What have you been up to?
But in virtually every situation, it's just better carrying a damage dealer or someone who can make use of reactions. Sound familiar? That is the same obstacle Crystallized faces as a whole. Since there's no avenue of cross-pollination between Geo and other elements, everything within it can only be useful to those who belong. The Elemental Resonance Enduring Rock increases shield strength by 15%, obviously meant to synergize with Geo's affinity for shields. Characters protected by shield gain 15% increased damage, and damaging enemies will decrease their Geo res by 20% for 15 seconds. On its own, these bonuses are rather impressive. 15% increased damage while shielded and shredding Geo res by 20% is far more substantial than 25% bonus attack or HP, but it costs you 2 Geo slots to obtain this benefit. Even if the 20% shred was for all elements, you're sustaining too big of a loss in efficiency by way of party slots. With only 2 slots remaining, all relevant party compositions are unfeasible. You can't pull out the national team, Chain Freeze becomes too inconsistent given that in most situations you need more than one source of Hydro and or Cryo, Taser is out of the question, Soup is also impossible. At best you can maybe pull off a 2-man Vaporize or Melt combo like Yoimiya and Yelan or Hu Tao and Xingqiu.
You see, prior to Yelan's release, believe it or not, Hu Tao's one of Hu Tao's best team was actually Hu Tao, Xingqiu, Albedo, and Zhongli. And it basically uses this principle of using the raw stat boost from the resonance to empower your team comp, and of course to assist with Geos doing more damage. Having Albedo Zhongli on the team, definitely you had enough Geos to capitalize on its effect. But once Yelan came out, it was an easy decision to switch to Yelan, and especially with the double Hydro Resonance changing to boost HP. Yeah, Albedo pretty much was dropped from that team permanently. Now, a lot of people would say, like, Walrus, you can't be looking at these stats, you know, they're not accurate, they're not representative of how meta works and or what people are actually playing. But, you know, like, after playing both teams, it just felt much better with Yelan as opposed to Albedo. It was more dynamic. It was, how should I put this? It was also less disruptive back when using Albedo. Like, there were times where it just felt like, I don't know, like, Crystallize is such a pain in the ass sometimes when it steals away your, the element that you just applied. Like, there's so many problems with this that I don't even know where to begin. So I'll just let Vars continue talking.
That's about it. As a result, the only place the majority of Geo's roster can find success in is with other members, rendering the element wholly insular. That is, if you're trying to make the most out of Geo itself. Some characters like Albedo or Yunjin provide stat boosts that grants a token bit of synergy with other characters. I feel like miHoYo is well aware of this, hence why they made it so Geo's Resonance encourages everyone in the party to deal Geo damage, and a number of characters have talents or constellations dependent on the number of Geo characters in your party or are exclusively meant to augment other Geo units, even down to the hyper stat of choice, Defense. Noelle, Albedo, Ito, and Yunjin scale off mostly defense, a stat that, while plentiful, on account of how frequently they appear in artifacts, isn't present on anyone outside of Geo besides Xinyan, who faces her own set of obstacles. All buffs that increase defense are only useful on those characters. A prime example of this is Goro. His elemental skill, Inuzaka All-Around Defense, creates a banner that provides up to 3 buffs to active characters that are close by based on the number of Geo characters currently present. At 1 being himself, you get a defense boost, which I already explained is only beneficial to Geo characters. At 2, you get super armor, never a bad thing, and at 2 characters it also means you obtain Geo Resonance. At 3, you get a boost to your Geo damage. Additionally, his passive talent increases all party members' defense by 25% for 12 seconds. As an extra benefit, Constellation 6 boosts your crit damage of Geo attacks by up to 40%. In his defense, no pun intended, the amount of buffs Goro sources to his team is insane. But aside from the super armor, all of the bonuses are strictly tied to Geo and its units. It's not like Bennett, where almost everyone benefits from attack, or Sucrose for elemental mastery, or Shogun for energy. Even the 40% crit damage only works specifically on Geo damage. This pattern is echoed throughout other premier Geo characters like Ito, whose second constellation causes his elemental burst to charge faster and come back up sooner based on how many Geo characters are in your party, and his constellation 4 boosts attack and defense by 20%. It's not just a stat boost either. A recurring theme within Geo's roster is that of summoning Geo constructs. Player-made structures composed of Geo energy that interact with your party and the enemy. Some of them are also solid objects you can climb on top of, making them useful for reaching otherwise inaccessible or hard to reach places while exploring.
This is just copium. Once you need to start talking about like Geo's utility features and the construct and stuff to justify why Geo doesn't have good reactions. I mean, I know he's not justifying, he's just laying things out for us.
Aside from their own properties, Zhongli's pillars can resonate with nearby Geo constructs, spreading the pulse effect and damage to other Geo constructs for more coverage. Once again, the only characters who can summon Geo constructs are Geo characters. You might be asking, what's wrong with having abilities tailored to a playstyle or element? Ordinarily, nothing. We have tons of characters who are specifically designed for a party. In fact, not too long ago we just got Nilo, whose passive talents explicitly state she's meant to be used for Dendro and Hydro based interactions, right down to—
Okay, here's the thing, right? Like this is, I don't know how this makes you guys feel, but having game developers basically force you to play the game a certain way. So for the case with Nilu, you are essentially, like technically, you are forced to play her in Super Bloom teams. Like, sure, you can play her in Vaporize, you can play her in Freeze, you can play her in whatever the hell you want. It's not like they sealed it off, but they heavily incentivize you to play her a certain way. And this is the same with all the characters, the way they're designed. Like, look at Kokomi. I mean, people have tried, don't get me wrong, like they've desperately tried to make these characters work outside of what Hoyoverse wants them to like be. But it's something that I've noticed that Hoyoverse has gotten more strict, in my opinion, with how they release characters and how they balance characters. They don't want another slip up like Morgana. They don't want another slip up like what Venti did to them for like the good part of the first year, where Venti was in like 90% of all the top teams played. I don't know. It just doesn't feel right having developers essentially hold your hand and telling you, or in this case, forcing you to play a certain way because they'll simply just remove the other thing. So, we'll see.
To who is in her party. In her case, there's a lot of controversy surrounding how exclusive she is, but my point is, there are other units who share this habit as well. So why am I covering Geo in particular? Simple, Geo itself is terrible. The characters are fantastic and I love their team-centric playstyle, but with such an abysmal reaction, that sense of isolation from other elements makes it difficult for players who want to use Geo characters to their fullest, but can't because they're lacking the wherewithal or units to form a strong party. To repeat, it's very possible for Geo units to find success in other parties. Yunjin's a stable choice for auto attackers like Yoimiya and Ayato, while Albedo's elemental mastery boost is helpful in a good number of scenarios. Fundamentally though, there's only so much they can do, and it renders a lot of their designs somewhat linear. I know I'm about to piss off a lot of players by saying this, but Noelle and Ito have very similar experiences. Both elemental bursts imbue their normals with geo damage, and both of them have increased attack based on their defense, essentially turning both of them into beast sticks who smack their opponents to death. Meanwhile, the shield and defense-based nature of the element leads to redundancy in supportive benefits. Noelle, Yunjin, and Zhongli have shields, and though earlier I said it was a creative way to incentivize proper team coordination, the need for multiple geo members in your party does more harm than good when you take into account Genshin Impact's entire experience is founded on mixing and matching elements to achieve a stronger outcome than the sum of its individual parts. The insularity of Geo contradicts the very notion of how this game was meant to be played. In my opinion, all of this could have been easily remedied if Geo had meaningful reactions. It's the element of Earth. I find it kind of confusing that the only reaction they could think of was Crystallize. There are so many possible reactions with Geo. If you combine Pyro and Geo, it should have something to do with lava, molten rock. Combining Geo and Hydro could do something related to mud, maybe bogging down enemy movement or keeping them stuck in place. Combining
that would make Geo way too broken. That would make Geo way too broken. Because if there's anything that I realize is that once you get to a certain level in the game, like once you just reach that level, like nothing else really matters anymore. So, like, am I defending Geo? Has it come to this point to say, like, okay, there's one team in Geo right now that is extremely powerful, and that is the Ito Hyper Carry Geo team, right? Like, without a doubt, the team's super strong, but it requires a C6 Goro to fully realize the Geo potential. Of course, you can do it with like C0 Goro if you want, but as many Geo characters in your team as you can fit, and then just pump up Ito to the best of your abilities. I mean, Nah. What am I saying? However's rework Geo. Just rework the element, rework the reactions, rework everything.
Geo and Anemo could cause a dust storm. So many different ideas you can use for Geo, and the only thing they came up with was Crystallize. But let's indulge that for a moment. As it stands, shields that provide only defense are just not cutting it, hence why Zhongli's shield has an aura effect that lowers nearby enemy resistance. If there was a universal way we can convert that defense into offense, that might open up the door for Geo to be a worthwhile composition to go after. Granted, it's already quite strong, but far more expensive and requires a lot more investment due to the need for specific units. Unlike Taser, Freeze, or National, which are more accessible, it would also be nice if Enduring Rock was changed to shred all resistance by 20% instead of solely Geo. That wouldn't solve the root problem, but it's better than nothing. In essence, Geo has the potential to be just as influential as other big name elements like Anemo and Hydro, but it prioritized the wrong things. Instead of addressing that, MiHoYo decided to double down on it by designing its characters to brute force Geo into relevance. And they succeeded. Kind of. Whether intentional or not, Geo has become sort of an island on a conceptual level, separated from the rest of the cast. Pyro, Hydro, Cryo, Anemo, Electro, and Dendro are comfortably mingling with each other and mutually benefiting, while Geo is left to fend for itself. It's not objectively a bad thing. If they were gonna choose a lone wolf element, then Geo was probably the best candidate for that. But just like how physical damage dealers are in dire need of support, Geo will have to be self-sufficient. Then again, I don't think it's going to receive a lot of attention anytime soon, what with the spotlight currently on Sumeru and Dendro.
This is why we need Super Crystallize. Okay? I've said this in the past. I mean, I said this a couple streams ago. We need a character like Nilou, but for Crystallize. Like some sort of unique super crystallized character. HoYoverse has done it once, and I can see it happening again, is that instead of revamping, fixing, or whatever the hell they do, they'll just make a new avenue for it. Having like an advanced crystallized reaction of some sort, or they can have different effects, right? Like if it's a pyro crystallized, then it can have this effect. If it's a hydro crystallized, then it can have this XYZ. So just go down the line with all the elements that can react to Geo, and you may end up at a pretty good spot. I mean, when was the last time we got a Geo character? Chat, like a new Geo character. Was it Ito? Did any Geo character come after Ito? 5 stars? No, right? So we are due. Like, if you think about it. And HoYoverse is like, this is how they operate. They won't tell you anything until they've pretty much already got it done and ready to release. I wouldn't be surprised if in the future a Geo character comes along, or like a somewhat odd character comes along that can help Geo fully realize their potential by evolving Geo's reaction through, I don't know. That's up for HoYoverse to decide.
Perhaps I'm being overly pessimistic. I did say Geo has found their place in the game. I just think there's so much wasted potential with the element and how it's holding back its characters. Genshin's all about combinations and permutations of elements. That should also include Geo. Earth is arguably the most adaptable element, and yet in this game it's the most rigid. But what do you guys think? Do you have any suggestions for how they can improve Geo? By all means, you're welcome to share them in the comments down below. That's all I have to say for today though, so if you enjoyed the video, I'd appreciate it if you left a like and subscribed. Consider following me on Twitter @VarsVerum, joining my Discord server, and if you'd like to support me further, check out my Patreon. By donating, you get access to benefits for all 3 of my channels, Vars, Vars2, and Vars3. But till next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.
I mean, yeah, I don't see any problems with what he said. Geo definitely feels like one of the weaker elements. Not because it itself, like I see a lot of people defending Geo, be like, oh my god, have you seen Zhongli? How can you say Geo's a bad element? It was the same thing they used to say for Electro, right? And HoYoverse went ahead and kind of revamped it and gave it a purpose in the game. Right now I'm saying it's the same thing with Geo, is that they still don't know who, like, exactly what their purpose in the game is. Are you for offense? Are you for defense? Okay, you're for defense. What kind of defense? Are you going for healing or mitigation? Mitigation? Are you going for debuffing enemies, or are you going for shielding, like protecting yourself? You're going for shielding. Like, there are so many layers to this stuff that HoYoverse first need to figure out and identify truly what Geo is. I think with Electro, HoYoverse has defined it as some sort of like battery synergy element, along with innate powerful scaling, as well as a multitude of like both utility and carry reaction sequence. And with Dendro, Electro definitely has a very solid carry potential now in any form of content. What about Geo, right? Like, we need to identify this stuff more clearly. We need to show everybody, like if they want to show us and force us to play the game a certain way, they need to give us proper information to play the game that way. I'm sure a lot of you guys, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody, but I'm sure a lot of you guys either A, want more synergies, reactions, which either A means more characters or have more unique reactions. But at the same time, not as unique as something like super contact. So you guys see how difficult this starts to get once we start sitting down and brainstorming. Like, okay, like, so what kind of direction can we take this? My solution prior to the idea of super crystallize was to revamp crystallize and readjust, rebalance some of its powers, potentials, and whatnot. Excuse me, to assist the element through reactions, because right now Geo is just a stat stick. Even its resonance is just a stat stick, and there's no shame to it. It's just boring, right? It's boring. It feels lazy by comparison to what HoYoverse has done with Dendro. I know we're so spoiled now that we have Dendro. We're comparing old design philosophies and bodies of work to the new stuff where we, had the privilege of being exposed to this stuff from the very beginning. And I don't know. I do think Geo definitely needs some work, but in what direction, in what sense, I don't know. Is it going to be a full rework? Is it going to be just reactions? Is it going to be none of that and it's just going to continue the way it is? Nobody knows at this point. But another announcement. Wait, TechNavarre says, Walrus, why would they change anything now that drastically? It's not like they want to make the game harder, so we need Geo stronger. Yeah, like, that's the other thing, right? Like, it doesn't benefit HoYoverse in any way, shape, or form to make any of these changes. Like, do they get more money? No. Do they get more players? No. What would happen? In fact, it would likely lose them players because people who enjoy Geo for what it is now don't get to enjoy Geo for the way it was. What if people just wanted to turtle? What if people just wanted to sit at base? What if people just wanted to not have to think about WTF they're doing? What if people just want to AFK play the game? What if, what if? By making this change, it'll only drive away the people who were already content with the element, as opposed to using it as a marketing tool to pull in new players, right? If you guys think about it like that, suddenly it makes a lot more sense. That's why I think this is very smart, because that's why having a character that allows for more unique Geo reactions is the answer here. It's much like what Nilu did with Bloom. There's going to be a character that comes out hopefully in the future that revamps Crystallize. But old players who want to play Geo the traditional way will still have their tools available to do so, right? So I think this is a pretty decent solution, and for people who want that extra bit of spice, you have to fork out some dollar bills, right? Like, that's how it is. But yeah, that's basically my 2 cents. I agree with mostly what he had to say. Do I think Geo is going to get a revamp? I don't think so. Do I think Geo is going to get new characters in the future that potentially can influence the direction of the element? Yeah, I think so. Okay. So, How many more days until the Nahida banner goes away? Very soon. 1 day. Wow. Ooh. Listen, people, you guys all have 1 day and 19 hours left. I think for CN, maybe it's shorter. I know you guys are ahead. Maybe less than a day. Let's switch to Nahida here. I don't think I need to harp on this character anymore. I don't think I need to praise this character anymore. I really suggest everybody who can pick up a copy, just pick up one copy. Don't even need her weapon. Just be happy that she's here. Now, overall synergies, my feelings for 3.2 has been great. Although I still refuse to play boring events that are too tedious. Or playing around with Nahida, experimenting with her team comps has been a lot of fun, and this is why Genshin takes a lot of pride in saying their characters is part of the content. Jabba, what are you doing? Oh yeah, and also there's not a lot. There's a bit of a debate going on between Tartaglia and Yaimiko for who is better or who is more worth it. I'll have to be completely 110% transparent with you. When it comes to value and general efficiency, I do think Tartaglia is better. Now, I was one of the first few people to come out and say Tartaglia was very annoying to use. I just didn't really enjoy his timer on his elemental skill. I really don't. But like as time went on and you discover other roles for him, and time to time I still can bring him out as that like main on-field carry slash driver role. But for the most part, he is functioning as a burst support. He supports the team through setting them up with playmaking potential, or in the case, just dealing an absurd amount of damage. Like there's something about the characters that were released back in patch 1.0 and stuff and whatnot, that era of the game, where it just felt like HoYoverse wasn't scared to break the game. They weren't worried that characters are going to be way too out of line. They weren't worried that they might overdo it. Right now, it just feels every move is calculated. There's no like mistakes to be had. I don't know, however, and as a result of their fear for making the game, like making the characters too strong, essentially power creeping, they make the game too easy, and when the game becomes too easy, the players will leave in droves, right? Like that is 100% when the game gets like too easy. It's also without a doubt that HoYoverse is on purposely making the game not as difficult, so as to when new players come in, they challenge certain features in the game, they don't end up completely getting folded, right? Or Satagla is a high skill unit, international needs practice to learn, but very satisfying to play. Yeah, that's what I said in the video, as well as that Tartaglia as a character, when you invest in him, is high risk, high reward. You mess up the combo, well, guess what? His elemental skill, the longer you have it out, the longer CD it is, and if you use it the whole duration, God bless you. Like maybe you get to use it next next patch. But overall, I do think that Tartaglia brings more than he takes away for a team. So yeah. Saint in abundance asking, how's my Abyss doing? It's doing fine. Last Abyss, I got 36 stars. I haven't even done this Abyss yet. Like, honestly, I'll see. Did they change the monsters? Oh my gosh, they did. Say goodbye to your shielders. Oh, Aeon Blight Drake. This one shouldn't be too difficult if I use Hu Tao. Huh. Interesting. I'll probably play it here and there. Right now, don't need it. But yeah. Anything else people want to talk about? We have a little over a day. Nahida's going away. That just rhymed. The boss was annoying. That boss is extremely annoying. It teleports a lot, and you can't really CC it. It hits extremely hard. Like really, you need a nuker, and guess who's one of the best nukers in the game? Mr. Worldwide, Tartaglia. That's right. If you build EM Tartaglia, can you? I'm pretty sure you can play Tartaglia with Nahida. And what kind of synergies are you gonna run though? Because they're gonna hit us with all their hard hitting stuff. Wow, I'll have to try it to see. There's nothing to it but trying it. I'll probably have it done for next stream. But also, in other news, the winner to the giveaway for Nahida decided he wanted Tartaglia instead, as he already had a C0 Nahida, and he didn't really want the constellation. So the guy chose to get Tartaglia, which means we'll be doing their summon for next livestream, because we need the Tartaglia banner to come out first. Now, this leaves us how many weeks until patch 3.3? Once we change banners, we'll have 3 weeks. Is that so? 3 weeks for patch 3.3. If you guys watch my videos talking about the TCG, like I'm dead serious in saying that we should really be paying attention to this game mode, because it's in Hoyoverse's best interest to balance it like just right. I don't know how complex a game is going to be, but starting simple is usually the way to go, unless Hoyoverse already wants to scoop us off our feet from the get-go. They don't care about the casuals. They just want the hardcore TCG players, which is fine. I just hope I don't get matched up with one of those hardcore players. I'm looking forward to 3.3 solely because of TCG. I know Scaramouche is also going to be in it, but really, like at this point, I'm so disappointed with all the poster childs for Genshin and stuff. Yaimiko, what's his name, Sino, and whatnot. I think Ayaka, they did her fine, but Zhao as well. They just, it just felt like they hired some random bozo off the street, designed the character, throw in some random number, and then just posted it. I mean, I know I put in low effort when it comes to my content, but Hoyoverse somehow Hoyoverse found another way. Hoyoverse pretty much gutted a lot of these characters and their potentials. I really hope, fingers crossed, that Zhao gets justice for himself, and that I know I said in the video that I can see a power creep coming where Zhao becomes irrelevant as a carry, but what I really actually hope for is that, you know, Zhao gets some love. Ito has a dedicated support. Why can't Zhao? So, you know, why can't Zhao? That is honestly like the biggest question mark in my head, right? Why does Ito get it, but Zhao doesn't? And Ito has the better artifact set as well. Ito has the better constellation growth as well. It's not fair. So that's why, like, when it comes to Scaramouche, I can't get too excited, because the more excited you are, the more expectations you have, the more you're gonna get let down when they don't perform to that standard. Now, I know we can hold Hoyoverse accountable for this kind of stuff, but obviously, A, they won't listen, and B, it's much more complex when it comes to designing an in-game character than we give it credit for. So at the end of the day, I think Hoyoverse is doing Hoyoverse, like what they can do as a small billion-dollar company. But yeah, I digress. I don't want to jump on them anymore. But I don't think we got much more to talk about right now. It's very slow. The game is just revolving around events. Yeah, I don't want to take up too much of your time. I think we could call it here if nobody else wants to chime in and pop up any discussion topics. I hope you guys are having a good time, because right now, like, it might be bad for content creators, but I think as a player, this is prime time, man. Like, having an Archon drop having events where you can farm up Primo Gems. Scaramouche is coming next patch and whatnot. Wondering when we're gonna get Zhongli reruns, Raiden reruns, so people can snag up copies of those. Good stuff all around. Notice I didn't mention Venti because nobody cares about Venti, especially not the constellations. So Raiden National is straight up copium this cycle. I haven't tried it, but I would imagine Raiden National can still do it. I usually run a Raiden Hyper Carry teams. I don't like Raiden National, and I've said this in the past, and I got a lot of flack for it. But I much prefer Raiden Hyper Carry. But yeah, it's a much more expensive way to run Raiden Shogun. I'm probably going to go in with this Kaching team. I don't know if I can clear it. Obviously, not going to pair it with Lightning Manifestation. Let's see if we can run Kaching in the first half, potentially, to see if there's any synergistic issues. Right, I think this should be okay. This should be okay. And this should be okay. All right, so as long as my Kaching is not in the second half, right? As long as Kaching is not in the second half, this should be fine. I think. Wait, was it right around that these wolves have reduced resistance to the element type that they are? So electro wolves are weak against electro. I don't know, but yeah, that's gonna be that guy. I don't want to take up any more of your time. Looking forward to summoning for the winner for Tartaglia. Looking forward to sharing you guys my thoughts for Abyss. Probably gonna wanting to test Layla. I'm still trying to build some of my other characters to work with Nahida. As you guys can see, my Nahida is level 18 now. I mean, level 80. I mean, with level 80 weapon, which I think is a fair place to stop. Like 929 elemental mastery. Sure, if I level her up, evolve her and her weapon, probably can get it to 1k, but that's just costing me a lot of resources or very minimal gains. Okay. Attack the Virus Walrus Tritoma version. Yeah, I've been looking into it. My Toma is it is barely built, and he's rocking the Vortex Vanquisher. My gosh. But artifact grinding, man, artifact grinding. I'm telling you guys, artifact grinding, that's like the thing that really gets you in the end. We may all be suffering through IRL in different ways, like maybe your midterms, maybe your papers do, maybe this, maybe that, but we all get screwed equally the same in Genshin Impact, and that is artifact RNG. Okay, so yeah, we are ending stream a little early, but thank you guys for tuning in. I hope to see you guys on Saturday, where we'll be polling for the winners. I sound like a broken record, but yeah, until Saturday, I urge y'all to stay safe. Peace. Again, if you guys have any videos you want me to react to, email me, DM me in Discord, whatever you want. I'd be happy to look over it and give my 2 cents. Now, does my opinion matter? Probably not. But if you're curious of what I think to certain types of discussion content, feel free to drop it. Okay? So thank you. I'll see you guys on Saturday. Bye.